At the Battle of Dyrrhachium, Julius Caesar faced a severe setback, suffering a crushing defeat at the hands of Pompey. When Pompey broke through Caesar's blockade, it became evident that holding the fortifications was no longer viable. Caesar, realizing the precariousness of his situation, pulled his troops back, regrouped, and reorganized his army. Now, confronted with a challenging decision, Caesar knew staying put was not an option. His men needed rest to recover their shattered morale, but they were running low on food and had many sick and wounded among them. Caesar weighed his options. He could march overland to Italy to rebuild his forces and recruit new troops, but that route was long and fraught with danger, cutting through rugged, barren terrain with little forage available for his men. Moreover, such a move would leave the legions he had stationed in the east to fend for themselves. He contemplated moving to Greece by sea, but lacking a fleet and with Pompey's ships dominating the waters, that option also fell through. Thus, one clear path remained: march deeper into Greece, connect with his scattered forces, and rebuild his strength and supplies. Following a short rest, Caesar led his men into the fertile plains of Thessaly. Meanwhile, Pompey also faced strategic choices. Many of his advisors urged him to march to Italy and secure Rome, but Pompey envisioned a different course and intent to finally vanquish Caesar once and for all. Feeling emboldened by his recent successes, he set his sights on pursuing Caesar. By the time Caesar reached Apollonia, he had restocked his supplies and left behind the sick and wounded. He then set off at a rapid pace to join with his ally, Gnaeus Domitius. In a clever maneuver to enhance speed, Caesar sent ahead his baggage train, allowing his men to march light and cover much more ground compared to Pompey's encumbered forces. Realizing he could not catch Caesar in time, Pompey dispatched his cavalry in pursuit. In a twist of fate, Caesar's rear guard encountered Pompey's cavalry near a bridge over the river Genus. The Pompeians attempted to force a confrontation and block the crossing, but they were met with Caesar's Gallic cavalry, which drove them back and secured the bridge. Caesar then made his way through Epirus and Athymania toward Domitius. Pompey's army headed for Macedonia, but took a separate route through Candavia. Domitius had been blockading Scipio's forces for some time, resulting in numerous skirmishes, though neither side was willing to risk a full-scale battle. Orders and messages flew in every direction, with Pompey's couriers spreading news of Caesar's defeat, rallying support for Pompey, and persuading many towns to withhold resources from Caesar's troops. Amidst the confusion, communication between Caesar and Domitius became scarce. Only the messages conveying Caesar's orders for Domitius to march and join him managed to reach their destination. Domitius, unsure of which route Caesar would take or where they were to meet, broke camp and opted for the shortest path along the Via Egnatia toward Dyrrhachium and Apollonia to link up with Caesar. However, as he traversed that very road, he encountered the entire army of Pompey. By sheer luck, Domitius avoided a clash by just 4 hours. His scouts alerted him in time, prompting him to turn his forces around, and soon rejoined Caesar near the town of Anium, close to the Thessalian border. United, their forces marched on Gyra. The town, once loyal to Caesar, had switched allegiances after news of his defeat at Dyrrhachium, refusing him entry. In response, Caesar decided to storm the city. Within hours, Gyra fell, allowing his men to sack it. From there, Caesar proceeded to Metropolis, which opened its gates without resistance. Meanwhile, following Domitius's departure to join Caesar, Scipio retreated to Larissa, where Pompey soon arrived, and the two commanders combined their forces. Not long after, Caesar and Pompey drew close and made camp near Pharsalus. Pompey positioned on a high hill at the foot of the mountains, while Caesar settled in the valley below. The senatorial faction in Pompey's camp pushed tirelessly for a decisive battle, but he opted to wait, knowing that Caesar's supplies were dwindling. As days passed, Caesar shifted his camp closer to Pompey, maneuvering to force a confrontation. In response, Pompey, confident in his superior position, prepared his legions atop the hill, which gave him a tactical advantage. Realizing that he couldn't compel Pompey into a decisive battle, Caesar began breaking camp to gather supplies. This prompted Pompey to finally commit to battle, marching his army down from the hill and forming ranks, confident that Caesar's men would fatigue themselves climbing uphill. Pompey deployed his army in a traditional Roman formation, anchoring his right flank on the Enipius River while extending his left into the plains. The heavy infantry was arrayed in 3 lines, with light infantry and archers on the flanks, while all of Pompey's cavalry massed on the left under the command of Titus Labienus. Lucius Domitius Ahenobarbus held command on the right wing, Scipio managed the center, and Lentulus took the left flank, with Pompey also stationed on the left. The plan was to allow Pompey's infantry to maintain a defensive line, waiting for the opportune moment to unleash his cavalry against Caesar's right flank, aiming to fracture his formation and encircle him. In response, Caesar organized his forces into 3 lines as well. His left flank leaned against rough ground near the Enipius River, while his right stretched across the open plains. On the left were the 8th and 9th legions, so depleted they barely exceeded a single full-strength legion. Caesar's most loyal and battle-tested troops, the 10th legion, formed the right, with the 11th and 12th legions occupying the center. Caesar positioned himself directly against Pompey. To match Pompey's formation in width and protect his flanks, Caesar had to thin his lines, resulting in only 6 ranks deep compared to Pompey's 10. Recognizing the cavalry concentration on Pompey's right flank, Caesar took swift actions, pulling together a reserve of 3,000 men from all his legions and placing them behind his right flank for additional protection. As the battle commenced, Caesar's troops advanced rapidly. His first and second lines closed the distance, typically pausing to let their enemies meet them midway before charging. However, unlike the expected rush, Pompey's troops held their ground, prompting Caesar's men to halt, catch their breath, and launch another charge. The initial clash was fierce. Caesar's legionaries hurled their pila, javelins, and squared off against Pompey's men in brutal hand-to-hand combat. The fight raged across the front, and slowly, Caesar's troops began to gain the upper hand, breaking through the first ranks despite becoming mired in an intense melee. At that crucial moment, Pompey committed his cavalry and archers on the left flank. Caesar's small cavalry detachment moved to intercept them, but was quickly overwhelmed. The 7-to-1 cavalry disadvantage proved decisive as Pompey's horsemen prepared to flank Caesar's right. Yet, just then, Caesar issued orders to his reserve. The 3,000 legionaries surged forward to confront Pompey's cavalry head-on. Instead of throwing their pila, they used them as spears, creating a solid wall of points. They charged with such intensity that they not only halted Pompey's advance, but reversed it. Caught off guard by a wall of spear points, Pompey's cavalry retreated in disarray. Meanwhile, Caesar's infantry pressed on, not pursuing the fleeing cavalry, but instead re-engaging with Pompey's light infantry and archers, who, now without cover, succumbed to the weight of Caesar's renewed attack. With momentum on his side, Caesar then commanded his fresh third line to advance. As these newly engaged cohorts joined the fray, the cumulative pressure on Pompey's infantry proved too much. The Pompeians finally faltered and began a full retreat. Soon the chaos of battle transformed into a rout. Pompey's forces scrambled to reach the safety of their camp, but a brief clash at the gates met them with determined resistance from Caesar's troops. Caesar's legionaries surged in pursuit, filling the vacuum left by the crumbling Pompeian line. Realizing the hopelessness of the situation, Pompey managed to escape through a rear gate alongside a small group of trusted followers. Nightfall was the only ally that spared him from immediate capture. The few Pompeians who fled retreated to the nearby hills, attempting to regroup and make for Larissa, but Caesar's troops swiftly outflanked them, cutting off every possible route to safety. The remnants of Pompey's army surrendered in droves, with ancient sources estimating casualties between 6,000 and 15,000 killed, while more than 20,000 were captured. Caesar also suffered significant losses, with around 4,000 of his soldiers losing their lives. In the aftermath, many of Pompey's captured soldiers were pardoned and even integrated into Caesar's ranks. Among those who surrendered were notable figures, including Marcus Junius Brutus, who would later become infamous for his role in Caesar's assassination. Pompey, after fleeing the battlefield, sought refuge in Lesbos, receiving counsel from his companions. They advised him to sail for Utica, where many of his supporters awaited or seek assistance in Asia. Ultimately, Pompey chose to travel to Egypt, where he thought an alliance with the local ruler would ensure him a warm welcome. Having fled to the coast, he boarded a merchant vessel, making his way through various ports before reaching Paphos on Cyprus, at which point he sent word to the Egyptian king asking for permission to land in Alexandria. Meanwhile, Caesar, determined not to allow Pompey any opportunity to regroup, set off in pursuit. Amidst the ongoing conflict, fighting persisted across the Roman Republic as the two factions clashed. Julius, a Pompeian commander, repeated earlier raiding strategies by seizing an island opposite Brundisium's harbor, keeping Caesar's fleet under blockade, but the mounting setbacks compelled him to abandon the blockade. Simultaneously, Pompey's admiral, Cassius, arrived in Sicily with a fleet targeting Caesar's remaining forces there. Against an unsuspecting fleet at Messina, Cassius executed a surprise attack using fire ships, effectively obliterating Caesar's naval presence before moving on to Vebo. Though met with resistance there, he managed to inflict further damage before retreating. Pompey finally received word granting him access to Alexandria. However, unbeknownst to him, the Egyptian king, Ptolemy, had decided to eliminate an unwanted rival and secretly plotted his assassination. He dispatched his guard commander, Achilles, and the military tribune, Septimius, an old acquaintance of Pompey's, to meet him. Suspecting no danger, Pompey boarded a small boat intended to transport him ashore, where Achilles and Septimius executed him. If you've made it this far, we sincerely appreciate your support. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow along on our journey through ancient civilizations and history. We release new episodes every week. If you'd like to support the channel, consider joining our Patreon or becoming a YouTube member for early access to episodes and exclusive content. You can also leave a super thanks below to show your appreciation. For those who enjoy learning on the go, check out our new podcast, Parabellum History, available on all major podcast platforms. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope to see you next time.